Wow, Angie thought to herself. I've always been told that cabins on cruise ships are small and cramped, and here it's luxurious. A king-size bed, a jacuzzi, a kitchen, and a balcony overlooking the bow of the ship. Maybe all those years that I worked at Walmart to help Aaron get his diploma weren't in vain after all. Watch out, Bootsy, I'm coming, Katie shouted, bursting through the door. Angie's best friend, Katie, came up with her nickname Bootsy on the way to the cruise terminal. She always gave Angie funny nicknames. A very appropriate nickname, Angie thought, glancing at her reflection in the mirrored wall opposite the bed. With a little effort with Weight Watchers and a little magic from my new surgeon friend, I look better than I did in my youth. Bootsy is true, and it gets a lot of attention. It's just a party apartment. I can't believe Aaron paid for this cabin for us and took us on a week-long cruise. You and I will wear out all these cocktail cards. Angie laughed. I think you mean cocktail cards? The cruise tickets came with two prepaid cards that gave Katie and Angie unlimited access to mixed drinks for the entire cruise. You know what I mean, Katie said with her usual grin. She threw her suitcase into the corner and said, I'll go find all the bars on this ship. See you in a couple of minutes. Okay, Angie replied as Katie playfully slapped her on the butt as she walked out the door. Katie always flirted with men and women. Strangely, this most often relaxed Angie. She felt more confident, less worried that someone would judge her behavior. Katie knew how to create an atmosphere of lightness and ease around her. Angie slowly walked around the cabin, checking its furnishings. She turned on the TV, found all the switches, and looked into the bathroom. It's just incredible. I just can't believe how nice it is here. I hope the cruise is great. I hope my boys are okay there. Taking a wine cocktail from the minibar, she reminded herself that she came here to relax, and all the rules are canceled. No calculation of points or calories. You can drink whatever you want. Just relax, no worries. As she heaved her suitcase onto the bed, Angie remembered her husband's gentle teasing about her overstuffed bags. So what? I'm a woman who goes away for the whole week, and I love my shoes. What can I say? She thought, trying to open the zipper. The suitcase immediately began to swell, spitting out blouses and bras as if she had opened a tube of cookie dough. With her favorite romantic comedy on in the background, Angie began unpacking her things. While hanging blouses, skirts, and trousers in the closet, she again caught her eye on a tag with a new size on one of the items. This size still surprised her. It's hard to get used to what's more. It's hard to even believe that I'm now a woman without excess weight. I look good, really. I'm just not sure I'll ever get used to it. Attention, of course, is sometimes annoying. Long, undisguised glances from men, especially black men. They like fair-skinned redheads with curves, and I can prove it with a few store receipts with phone numbers written on them. Aaron always said they had excellent taste in women. As she reached for the last blouse, she noticed that it was a video camera bag with a letter taped to the top. On the envelope, in her husband's large, slanted handwriting, was written simply Angie. Quickly opening the thick envelope, she found a package of condoms and a note from Aaron. Hello, sweetie. Hope you're having a good time. I'm glad I was able to take you and Katie on a cruise together. You need this rest, and Katie won't let you get bored. The boys and I will be fine. Call whenever you want. I love. Your husband. P.S. I decided to help you a little with packing. Wink, and remember, be naughty. Very naughty. Oh, God, she thought, shaking her head. I can't believe he actually put condoms and a video camera in my suitcase. A slight smile flashed on her lips. He has been dreaming for so many years that I would sleep with someone else. He has such a strange fantasy. I don't understand it at all. But oddly enough, this topic brought us closer. It even brought a new passion into our relationship. With a smile, she remembered how her husband almost broke down with delight after she once flirted with a stranger in a bar and then kissed him in a secluded corner. I don't understand why it turns him on so much, but it's really refreshed our marriage. But sleeping with another man, I don't know if I can, and do I even want this? The ringing tone of her phone pulled her out of her thoughts. Katie's name flashed on the screen. "Where have you gone?" Angie asked. "Hey, open the balcony." "Okay, just a second," Angie replied, fumbling with the unusual lock of the sliding door. "Are you on the street?" "Yes, I'm by the pool. I reserved one of these cool booths for us. Do you see me? Look to your right. I'm waving to you." Angie glanced quickly around the pool and bar area and noticed Katie waving her arms. "Yeah, I see." "Wow, our cabin is really high," Katie shouted, holding up a huge cocktail. "Hey, stop taking things apart. Come down to the pool. I have a margarita ready for you. Okay, I'm going. I'll just figure out how to get there." "Hey, shake your chest at me," Katie says with an almost audible smile. "What? No." "Come on." She draws out the words as if she were trying to persuade her friend to sit on a roller coaster. "Okay." Angie sighs and shakes her shoulders slightly. To be honest, she even liked it when Katie egged her on like that. Deep down, she had always wanted to be carefree and a little cocky, but she clearly lacked that push. "Great. Now get your ass over here before I drink your margarita." I'm coming." At the cabana pool, Katie hands her a margarita the size of a punch bowl. "Frozen with salt, right?" she asks. "It's about me, yes." "Well, has the ship left the harbor yet?" Angie asks, studying the pool and sneaking a glance at the handsome lifeguard. "Who cares? We're here to party and drool over these hot Irishmen when they sing tonight," Katie answers. "I'll drink that," Angie says softly, clinking her margarita pitcher with Katie. "Do you want to go for a swim?" Katie asks, pulling her shorts off with a quick, flirtatious movement. Angie shakes her head. "I'm not one to like the sun. I can get burned even under an ultraviolet lamp. I think I'll just sit here in the shade and enjoy the view." She tilts her head slightly towards the rescuer. "View? Ah, I understand." Katie spots a muscular guy with a whistle. "Yes, I like your choice of view." She winks and runs away towards the diving board. Angie leans back on her lounge chair, puts on her sunglasses, and takes a sip of her margarita. They had only been on the cruise ship for a few hours, but she was already feeling relaxed and a little excited. There is something about being physically away from home that makes all the usual worries disappear. Confident that her three sons are in her husband's capable hands, her mind turns back to the concert on board that evening. Her favorite Irish singers, and especially Keith, are not only on the same cruise, but are also scheduled to perform. Last year, she and Katie went to their concert, and although it was fun, she was frankly disappointed that she never met her idol, Keith. Aaron, partly out of love for Angie and partly out of a pure desire to add some spice to the relationship, sent her on this cruise, confident that sooner or later she would meet Keith. With one of her favorite Keith songs playing on her iPod, she easily drifts off to sleep. Once again, glancing sideways at her full-length self in the mirror, Angie asks for the third or fourth time, "Are you sure this looks okay?" "Yes, sure. More than normal, you look stunning. I mean, look, you've lost weight, toned up a little, and now... Wow, I would definitely hook up with you." Katie winks at her. If you say so." Angie mutters. To be honest, she was already almost sure that a skirt that hugged her hips and a blouse with an accent on her chest, complemented by shoes with 4-inch heels, made up a spectacular look. But Katie's assurances still felt like balm to the soul. "You know, Aaron would call these shoes sex shoes. I hope I can wear them on this ship." "I'm sure you can, and who knows, maybe Keith will notice your sex shoes." "That's what Aaron hopes." Angie replies quietly, following Katie out of the cabin. "I can't believe how amazing the concert was, and this time we will definitely meet Keith and Damien," Katie says with excitement, turning to the door of the VIP room. "I know, simply incredible. What do I look like? Is your hair okay?" Angie whispers, barely catching her breath. "Darling, you are gorgeous. You could have someone today if you were brave enough," Katie replies with a smile. Okay, let's go. I'm as ready as I can be," Angie breathes. While standing in line, Angie felt a slight trembling, rapid breathing, and nervous excitement. Each step forward brought a new wave of anticipation. Strange thoughts flashed through her mind as she watched those in front shake Keith's hand and pose for a photo. With a feeling of jealousy, she impatiently wished that every lady in front of her would quickly end the conversation and leave. Slowly, the line moved forward until finally Keith met her gaze and made a slight gesture with his hand, beckoning her to him. Angie stood frozen in place, her mind in turmoil. "Come on, don't be stupid. Go, take a step. You can't just stand here, you have to react." She stepped forward with a jerk, as if breaking through a glass wall. "Wow, just calm down," Keith said in his soft Irish accent, reaching out to support her and briefly touching her shoulder. The fleeting touch sent a wave of excitement through her body. Her groin felt like it had been electrocuted. "Yes, I just tripped. I guess I'm a little nervous," Angie muttered. "I don't like to see such a beautiful girl fall, you know. And there's no need to be nervous. I'm a normal guy," Keith replied. Her mind couldn't process what was happening. Did Keith just call me beautiful and claims that he is ordinary? Ha! Wow, this is absolutely incredible. I've been a big fan of yours for many years," she blurted out. "It looks like your friend wants to take some photos of us," Keith said, extending his hand towards Angie. Angie suddenly realized that the flashes she was seeing were from Katie's camera. She stepped forward and smoothly entered Keith's outstretched hand. The feeling of his casual embrace seemed to fit her perfectly, like a couture dress. With a beaming smile and an arm around Keith's waist, she turned to Katie and the camera. Katie pulled Angie aside, whispering furiously as she handed her more cider. "What are you whispering about in the corner?" "What? What do you mean? Did Keith just suggest we talk for a minute?" Angie said with bewilderment. "Just a minute, you say. You've been chatting here for almost an hour," Katie answered. Angie's mind was reeling from the events of the evening. She spent almost the entire event talking to Keith, to the obvious displeasure of several other women. Now she was struggling to maintain her composure. Finding a secluded corner near the bar, she continued her one-on-one conversation with Keith, the conversation becoming more flirtatious with each new drink. The barely noticeable touch of his hand, the accidental contact of bodies as the crowd moved around. As the boat rocked slightly, Angie leaned on Keith, ostensibly to keep her balance. Placing her hand on his chest, she looked up coquettishly. Their eyes met, and instincts took over. Keith leaned down, and her lips moved towards his. Closing the door to her cabin with her heart beating loudly, she knew what awaited her and was both excited and scared. The trembling in her knees was a strange mixture of fear and delight, the anticipation of something exceptional and surreal. Her hands reached for his shirt and began to undo the buttons. It seemed as if she was looking at herself from the outside, but she continued to take off his shirt. His arms wrapped around her back, pressing her closer. Pressing her nose against his chest, she inhaled deeply the scent of his skin. Continuing to grasp the reality of what was happening Keith here, in her cabin she felt that everything was heading towards the inevitable. Raising her head, her lips met his, drowning in a cascade of his long blonde hair. The electrifying touch of his lips filled her with energy. She kissed him deeply and passionately. Her hands explored his chest, freeing him from his shirt, and then went to work on his belt with almost eager energy. His strong, large hands roamed freely over her body, slid from the back to the buttocks, squeezing them tightly and pulling her towards them. With his belt undone, Keith's kilt slid smoothly to the floor. His passionate attraction to her became obvious. His pride and excitement were visible. Still kissing him, she pressed herself closer to him, feeling his impressive arousal through her blouse. Her lips greedily reached out to his. She timidly felt the touch of his tongue, experiencing a new surge of excitement. His hands, wandering over her body, boldly squeezed her buttocks, went up her back, and caressed her breasts. Feeling a sudden desire, she began to unbutton her blouse without breaking the kiss with Keith. Taking off her blouse in one motion, she unfastened her bra clasp. Her ample breasts were exposed, and she stepped into Keith's arms. Their passionate kisses continued. Feeling her breasts pressed against his muscular chest, she felt her heart pounding. their arms and legs intertwined, their bodies responding to a primitive call. She barely realized that her path was predetermined and sex with Keith was inevitable. Slowly, Keith's hands slid down, easily reaching inside her waistband. Without much resistance, her skirt slipped off her hips and fell to the floor. A gust of cold air forced her to snuggle closer to Keith. Pushing herself away, she breaks away from Keith's arms and stands proudly in sight. With one leg slightly bent, she looks at him shyly, feeling both fear and joy. She presses her palm against his chest, pushing him slightly back onto the bed, and quickly turns on the VCR on the dresser. With a slight smile, she comes closer and sits next to him, holding his hand in hers. There is a softness in her eyes, and she slowly finds a comfortable position. Slowly turning around, she sits down next to him and feels the warmth of his body. Together, they begin to find a common rhythm, calm and trusting. Every movement fills her with a feeling of closeness and mutual understanding. She looks down and sees their hands intertwined. Every nerve is focused on the sensation of the moment when she presses against his chest. Her heart beats faster and a quiet sigh escapes her lips. There is calm and harmony in their movements, and she feels the warmth of their bodies growing stronger, immersing them in a deep sense of unity and intimacy. She moved at a rhythmic and calm pace, with Keith gently supporting her. She glanced over her shoulder to look at the camera that was recording the moment. Subconsciously, she understood that she was realizing one of her husband's most cherished fantasies and tried to play for the camera. Her movements were confident and smooth, filled with intimacy that brought joy to both. Every gesture and every touch emphasized their connection. She focused on the feeling of oneness, enjoying the experience. Leaning forward, she felt vulnerable, but at the same time free. The camera capturing the moment emphasized their closeness and trust. Her body reacted to his every gesture, causing trembling and inner warmth. The feeling of support and unity with a partner, enjoying the moment, awareness of mutual trust, all this made their connection even deeper. She placed her elbows on the bed around his head and kissed him tenderly. Their lips met, tongues pressing insistently, groping and exploring. Her breasts touched his muscular chest, and her arms gently wrapped around his body. He caressed her back and touched her legs, enjoying every moment of intimacy. She rose to her knees, still next to him, leaned back and smiled into his eyes. His chest rose and fell, his breathing quickened. His hands focused on her waist, they touched each other gently, enjoying the warmth and sensuality of the moment. He gently grabbed her waist, helping her move to maintain this rhythm that was comfortable for both of them. They exchanged glances full of love and tenderness, completely focused on each other. She smiled quietly and said, "I hope you're happy with me," to which he replied, looking at her with sincerity in his voice, "You're amazing." They continued to be in this moment, enjoying every touch and every look, feeling a deep connection with each other. Everything was filled with tenderness and love. They gave each other joy and warmth. Not wanting to bring her sensations to a peak, she slows down and reaches for the video camera. She tells herself that she wants to make a beautiful video for her husband, but in reality, she wants to see their intimacy up close. Sitting backwards, she stands up and points the camera at herself. Zooming in, she is fascinated by this movement, the feelings that overwhelm her, and the warmth of their touch. Holding the camera high, she watches as their connection becomes even more sensual. Her hand confidently guides the camera, capturing every moment of their intimacy. With agonizing slowness, she films their movements, enjoying every moment. Positioning the camera to capture the entire cabin, she returns her attention to the pleasure ahead. She sways smoothly, feeling Keith's gentle hands exploring every corner of her body. Her teeth lightly brush against his finger as his hand passes her face. He touches her gently, pausing to hug or touch, sometimes lingering to add a little more depth to their intimacy. To prevent herself from reaching the peak of pleasure, she forces herself to stop and gets out of bed, remembering every moment of their interaction. "Hanji, where are you going?" Keith asks in a soft accent. "Come on, let's go out onto the balcony," she says, turning to open the sliding door. Stepping out into the cool night air, She feels her skin break out in small goosebumps. Her knees tremble a little from excitement. She leans over the railing and looks into the distance, feeling the pleasant coldness of the metal under her palms. Looking over her shoulder, she smiles at Keith, playfully beckoning him closer. Keith immediately comes up and is nearby. His arm wraps around her waist, pulling her closer, and she feels his warmth rolling in waves. Their closeness makes her heart beat faster, and the silence of the night stretches around them, only broken by the distant noise of people below. She looks down, noticing that the bars and pool are still full of people, and it takes her breath away. The thought of them being there for everyone to see makes this moment especially exciting. He hugs her tighter, and they begin to move to their own rhythm, immersing themselves in the atmosphere of a quiet night. She feels how closeness to him, together with the awareness of their insolence, ignites a storm of emotions in her. Every look and touch intensifies this feeling, and the cool night air heightens all senses. She notices that several people below seem to be looking in their direction. This moment makes her smile and feel a little excitement, as if they are on the verge of some kind of adventure. They remain in this whirlwind of emotions and intimacy, enjoying the city at night and each other. Keith easily lifts her up so that their embrace becomes even tighter, and she, looking into his eyes, is completely immersed in this moment, feeling the support and strength of his arms. The night air around them, the noise and light from below, all create the feeling that this moment exists only for the two of them. Supporting her upper body with her arms, she pulls her legs up, feeling their bodies synchronize in harmony. They move together, exchanging tender touches and glances, their intimacy reaching its peak. The warmth of their bodies unites, and every moment becomes even more intense and important. Their movements become more intense, emotions take over them headlong. She feels the familiar feeling of an approaching climax, losing herself in this moment, completely immersed in the sensations. He, too, feels the tension, their breathing quickens, and their emotions find an outlet. This feeling of freedom and unity brings with it genuine joy and liberation. Gradually, their movements slow down, breathing becomes calmer. She feels her whole body relax, and a slight tiredness begins to creep in. Both, still close, allow themselves to enjoy a moment of peace and quiet. Gently relaxing the embrace, she gently places her feet on the floor, trying to regain her balance. Panting and feeling a slight trembling in her legs, she smiles, seeing his tired but happy smile. Keith leans carefully on the door, and they both know that this moment will remain in their memories for a long time. Suddenly realizing that she is completely naked on the balcony and can be seen by anyone, she quickly returns to the cabin. Sitting down on the edge of the bed, she turns off the camera. "You should probably go back to your cabin, Keith. I don't want my friend Katie to know you were here," she says. "Yeah, of course. Just let me get dressed first," Keith replies. Wrapped in a towel and holding the door to close it behind him, Angie gently tugs at his shirt as he leaves. Turning to her, he places his hand over her still rapidly beating heart. "Thank you," she whispers, desperately trying to keep her voice from shaking, looking at his chest, not daring to raise her eyes higher. "Oh, honey, you were amazing in bed." "No," she interrupts. "I mean, thank you for spending time with me, for making me feel special. You could have chosen any girl on this ship or in the world. Just thank you for not brushing me off and giving me something I will always remember." Her voice is trembling. "My pleasure. You are charming and beautiful. Your husband has a real treasure," he says, gently lifting her chin so she looks into his eyes. Leaning down, he kisses her lips again. She lingers in his embrace, not wanting to let go. "Slán," he says softly, leaving. "Slán," she whispers, having learned to say goodbye in Irish. Softly closing the door behind him, Angie remains standing by the bed. The events of the evening are still swirling in her mind. Part of her remains in shock and disbelief. Picking up her cell phone and sinking onto her bed, she calls home. "Hello, honey," Aaron answers. "Hello to you too," she replies. "What were you doing there so late?" asks her husband. "Oh, well, just playing around," she answers flirtatiously. "Is it true? How naughty have you been?" he draws in response. Very naughty. Her voice practically envelops the telephone line. Oh, baby, I love the sound of that, and I like the way you sound. Angie slowly emerged from the ocean of deep sleep. Without even opening her eyes, she could already feel the sunlight streaming through the balcony and illuminating the entire cabin. With her eyelids closed, she enjoyed the opportunity to rest undisturbed and get up only when she wanted. The dryness in her mouth from a few too many drinks the night before made her feel a little tingling as she thought back to the night before. Oh my God, last night was amazing, she thought to herself. I sometimes thought I would never even meet Keith, let alone have such a deep and immediate connection with him. Damn, we made love like wild animals. It was probably the most amazing sex of my life. Her thoughts sounded in her head while a half smile appeared on her lips. Lazily opening her eyes, she glanced at the alarm clock next to the bed. 11:18. Now I can sleep through the entire cruise, she thought, consciousness still breaking through the sleepy haze. Good morning, Sleeping Beauty, Katie called out loudly to her in her usual cheerful tone. Yes. Hi, Angie said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Suddenly, she remembered that she had fallen asleep naked and embarrassedly pulled the sheet up to her shoulders. Putting down the book, Katie jumped out of the other bed. I know a girl who had a party here yesterday. I, um, it's just... Angie began to babble, feeling her face flush with color. Relax, everything is fine. I don't blame you for having fun. There's nothing wrong with having a little fling with Keith, especially if you're married to a guy like Aaron, Katie said, quickly picking up on Angie's tendencies toward anxiety. I hope everything wasn't strange or awkward. Taking a calming breath, Angie replied. No, it's not awkward at all. You know, there was, of course, a part of me that thought, I can't believe this is happening, and another part that couldn't even wrap my head around the fact that I was actually, you know, having an affair with Keith. Reaching for her tight-fitting t-shirt, she continued, it was just, wow, I don't even know how to describe it, it was incredible. There was an immediate connection between us, everything happened somehow by itself. It looks like Aaron will be delighted, Katie shouted from the bathroom. Oh, you have no idea. I talked to him last night. Well, after all this, and he literally exploded with joy on the phone. I think he tried to remember every detail. At one point, he said something about how he was ready to fly to the ship in a helicopter and jump with a parachute just to be a fly on the wall. He was so happy that I almost believed he could try. As she left the bathroom, Katie remarked, I don't know how or why your marriage works, but I'm glad it works. She shook her head. Yes, sometimes I don't understand it myself. When I think about how it all began, two teenagers who knew nothing about life, with a child in their arms. Looking back, there was nothing to suggest that we could or should be together. And now, 15 years later, we are not just together, but closer to each other than ever. I know it sounds strange, but I think our marriage is stronger than most people I know, Angie said thoughtfully as she got dressed. Well, I'm sure half of my friends would change places with you in a second. Not everyone has the same opportunity as you, although I think many women sometimes dream about it, Katie said cheerfully. Well, they won't succeed. It's mine, and I'm definitely not going to share it, Angie answered with a smile. Keith or Aaron, Katie clarified. Both, Angie said with a grin. Great. Let's go see what's in the casino. I'm behind you. Light lunch on the top deck, a run in the gym, and a rum and coke by the pool. I would like to get used to this rhythm, Angie said, raising her glass for a toast. Change it to a mojito, and it would be the perfect start to the day, Katie replied, clinking glasses with her. Yes, although those plastic glasses don't sound as impressive when you're trying to make a toast, right? Bobbing in the cool water, Angie instinctively turned her head when she heard her name. Looking back, she saw the waiter walking around the guests, heading in her direction. The waiter called her name again, and she waved to get his attention. Approaching her, he knelt down and handed over a tray with a single envelope on which was written Angie. She took it, frowning slightly, and the waiter stood up and went to the lower deck. "What do you have there?" Katie asked, moving closer. "No idea," she replied, setting the cocktail on the edge of the pool. "I hope this isn't a bill." Tearing the envelope lengthwise, she wiped her fingers with a napkin and pulled out 2 tickets and a note. "Please be my special guest tonight. Keith." "What is this?" Katie asked, looking over one shoulder. "Looks like these are tickets for the concert tonight," she replied. "I thought the concert was free or at least included in the price of the cruise." "It's like that," Angie replies, her brows furrowed in concentration. "But it seems to me that these are something like VIP passes. Looks like front row aisle seats. Apparently the best seats are reserved, and it looks like Keith got us a couple." "Cool. The first row means we will be looking up at them all evening. Remind me to charge my camera. I don't want to miss any moments with their kilts," says Katie with a knowing smile. "I like the way you think," Angie replies jokingly, a little surprised by the unexpected turn of events. Dressed in an elegant, tight black skirt and well-fitting striped button-down blouse, Angie follows Katie down the steep steps to her front row seats. Nervously checking the camera and laughing at each other's little jokes, they eagerly await the show to begin. The hall plunges into twilight, the curtain rises, and an Irish singing troupe appears on stage. Playing all the familiar songs from their previous albums, the band sings with an energy and charisma that can't be captured on a headset. Sitting on the edge of her seat, Angie doesn't even realize how quickly 2 hours have passed. Having almost filled her cell's memory, she is mesmerized by Keith's performance on stage. The other singers barely register in her mind. He is well aware of her presence in the audience. He often turns around and looks at her during the show. Each of his glances runs over her body like a flash from a lit match. Finally, there is a pause between songs and the other members move away, leaving Keith alone in the center of the stage. Standing right in front of her, he says, "I want to sing for one very special girl I met here on this cruise just yesterday." Reaching out his hand to her, he calls Angie up to the stage. With a momentary sense of horror, Angie points at herself and silently whispers, "Me?" Keith calls her urgently again. Horrified, Angie shakes her head. "No. I hate being the center of attention. There's no way I'm going on stage, not for Keith or anyone else," she thinks. Katie grabs her hand roughly and turns to her. "What are you doing? Come on, come out." She shakes her head again, now deeply embarrassed by the attention and as if glued to her seat. "Angie, you're crazy," Katie hisses in a low voice. "What are you doing? This is not who you want to be. You will regret this for the rest of your life. Don't go back to that insecure little girl who is afraid to live her dreams. Come on, go." Not knowing whether the words themselves or the intonation had an effect, Angie winces, breaking free of her resistance. She stands up and feels as if she is floating, leaving her seat and heading towards the stairs leading to the stage. With a feeling of being outside her body, her legs automatically climb the 7 steps next to the orchestra pit and ascend to the stage. The hall explodes with applause, even when the stage light obscures the audience. Her vision narrows and her heart races. She sees Keith take her hand and lead her to the center of the stage. Belatedly, she notices that she is still holding the camera and doesn't know what to do with it. Spotlights and sophisticated stage lighting turn her into a star. Her fiery red hair takes on extra shine, her well-chosen outfit highlights the textures of the light, and her skin looks like a creamy porcelain, like every beautician dreams of getting that effect in a bottle. With a slight wink, Keith begins his solo performance of the song, "I Want to Know What Love Is." From the very first chords, she is transported into a personal world, as if she and Keith are the only people in this room. The whole feeling of the stage, the audience, the orchestra, and also the entire cruise ship disappears for her, disappearing into the darkness. Without taking his eyes off her, he sings and spins her around him. He maintains his masterful stage presence, but makes her the center of his attention. He includes her in the song as if she were his partner. A light touch, a long touching gesture brings the song to life. He conveys the power of the words by touching her back and then touches her lips with his finger. she becomes his partner. As the lights fade and the final chorus fades, Keith turns off the microphone for a moment and whispers in her ear, "Meet me at Skipper's tonight after I sign some autographs." Relaxing in a secluded corner of the elite Skipper's salon, she nestled under Keith's arm, which lay lightly on the back of the sofa. Glowing with the relaxation brought on by a few strong cocktails, she took advantage of a pause in the conversation to ask, "So why did you decide to bring me on stage tonight?" His Irish accent flows like a forest stream. "Well, I had to thank you somehow for the hospitality you showed me last night." "Oh, that's how it is," Angie replies playfully. "Hospitality, you say? How are you going to repay me for my hospitality today?" Keith freezes, his face expressing pleasant surprise and intrigue. "Wasn't there something you wanted to show me in your cabin?" she says in a conspiratorial tone, lightly touching his kilt with her hand. "Yes, yes, I definitely have to show you something in my cabin," Keith replies with a smile and a knowing look on his face. As soon as the door to his cabin closed behind them with a soft click, she felt her body drawn towards him like a magnet to metal. Sliding into his arms, her hands slid through his hair, flowing through her fingers like water. Looking up, her lips moved towards his. With a deepest kiss, his hands slid down her back, exploring her curves. His strong arms wrapped around her, pulling her to his broad chest. Lips pressed against his, her tongue gently explored his mouth. The light touch of his tongue caused an electric flash of heat inside her. With her fingers intertwined in his long blonde hair, she mentally wished to become one with him. Pressing against him with increasing force, she felt him answering her. She wanted to have more arms to hug Keith even tighter. The passion inside her flared up more and more. Gathering her will into a fist, she took a step back, looking at Keith's ridiculously raised kilt after her hot kisses. She felt differently. Last night, passion had overwhelmed them with the fury of a late-night disco. Today, everything was different, slower, more conscious. Today, she was going to charm him, just as he had charmed her with his performance on stage. Understanding what this evening would lead to, she felt an unprecedented sensuality and determination to capture his attention before allowing him to achieve male satisfaction. Sliding one knee slightly towards the other, she bit her lower lip and undid the top button of her blouse. Looking up at him through the strands of her garnet red hair, she appreciated his undivided attention. Running her hands down her blouse, pausing only to cup her ample breasts, she smoothed down her skirt, letting her fingers linger just a little at her hips. Then she slowly undid a few more buttons. The edges of the blouse fell open, revealing a green bra. Smoothly, button by button, she continued, showing more and more of her soft, pale skin. As the blouse fell to her elbows, she gently ran her fingers along the contours of the bra while looking at him. It was obvious that he was completely captivated by the spectacle. Her hands reached for her skirt, slowly pulling it down a few centimeters. Once again, she paused to watch his reaction, waiting for his expectant look before pulling the zipper down with grace. The skirt finally slipped from her waist and fell to the floor. Standing in front of him in modest pieces of fabric, she saw how his look of admiration only gave her confidence. With a deft movement of her fingers, she unclasped her bra and freed her hands from its straps. Holding the cups covering her breasts, she looked him straight in the eyes before boldly letting the underwear fall. She enjoyed his distraction, reveling in how his eyes involuntarily turned to her breasts with lust. Covering her breasts with her palms, she gently caressed them, feeling their heaviness and fullness. Her slender white fingers gently touched her skin, as if she were exploring her own sensuality. Pulling her right hand to her lips, she looked up at him, her tongue gently touching his fingers. Keith sighed quietly in response. Running her hand along the waistband of her panties, she caught his reaction, waiting for his response. Slowly, in a seductive motion, she ran her hand down her gently curving thigh. The lace slid down, revealing her natural beauty. Keith watched her grace and confidence with admiration. Running her hand over her stomach, she slid her fingers over the skin, feeling the softness and warmth. Her breathing quickened, and she squeezed her shoulders slightly, continuing to lose herself in the moment. Keith stepped forward, approaching her. Hugging her with one arm, he gently kissed her neck, feeling her closeness. His arm wrapped around hers, and their fingers intertwined, creating a feeling of connection and support. She reached for his shirt, feeling her fingers tremble with excitement as they unraveled the buttons. Taking off her shirt, she felt his chest pressing against hers, and their hearts beat in unison. Her lips moved towards his again, and their kiss became deep and sensual. She grabbed his thigh, trying to be even closer to him, completely surrendering to this moment and enjoying every second of their tender intimacy. Keith hugged her tenderly, as if the world around had ceased to exist, and only the two of them remained in this moment. His lips slowly touched hers, as if afraid to disturb the fragile harmony of the moment. The kiss was warm, tender, and full of deep tenderness. He parted with her only for a moment, and then returned, gently touching her chin, as if he wanted to keep this feeling for the rest of his life. Slowly, in his measured rhythm, his lips slid to her neck, leaving light traces, as if recording every moment as a memory. She closed her eyes, immersing herself in this sensual dance of their emotions, allowing herself to completely dissolve in this moment. Each kiss from Keith left a feeling of warmth and tenderness, creating a feeling of security and absolute trust. Dropping lower, Keith gently touched her shoulders, continuing his path along his beloved's body, every touch of which was the personification of his love and admiration. It was as if he was trying to show how important every detail was to him, how carefully he studied it, and how he appreciated every little detail in it. Her hands were tangled in his hair, feeling its softness and texture. She raised her head slightly, allowing him to continue. She felt his hands glide carefully around her waist, lingering there for a moment to let her feel the warmth of his touch. She smiled and breathed in, feeling how every gesture they made their connection stronger and deeper. At that moment, they completely disappeared into each other, forgetting about time and space. They swam in an ocean of emotions and trust, giving each other moments of intimacy that seemed to last forever. Keith raised his hand to her cheek, and their eyes met. She saw in his eyes the same feeling that she harbored herself, absolute love and affection that were timeless. At that moment, she realized that she did not need to speak words to express her feelings. Their hearts were already speaking for them. Then, slowly and calmly, she turned, lowering herself onto the bed. She didn't take her eyes off Keith, her eyes talking about readiness and trust. She felt his presence nearby, his warmth and care. Keith gently touched her back, and she felt his arms wrap around her, giving her a feeling of complete peace. She felt his breath on her skin and closed her eyes, completely surrendering to this moment. Keith gently wrapped his arms around her, feeling her heartbeat next to him, and their every gesture spoke of the mutual affection, tenderness, and respect that they cherished in their hearts. Every moment was filled with absolute harmony, and it seemed as if time had stopped to give them the opportunity to enjoy it endlessly. They became one, forgetting about the world around them, immersed in their common feeling, which turned out to be higher than words and actions. Holding her hand, together they draw a map of her graceful contours. His left hand joins his right, carefully tracing the soft lines of her body, touching her with tenderness. She looks at his strong hands, which carefully hold her. The contrast of her beautiful pale skin between his bronze fingers was impressive, and her face was framed by soft curls of red hair, her breathing becoming rapid and agitated. Still holding his hand, she guides him, applying light pressure. Together, they touch her stomach, exploring every curve. She barely guides him, giving him freedom of action, and his touch finds the most tender and sensitive places on her body. Their fingers intertwine, and she feels her emotions wash over her, filling her with a feeling of deep connection with him. With a smooth movement, he approaches her. The feeling of closeness makes her heart beat faster. He presses himself against her, his hands gently squeezing her hips as she responds to his touch with warmth and trust. "Angie, you are incredible, so tender and sophisticated," Keith says, and his voice sounds soft and bewitching. "No one has ever made me as happy as you." "You've never had anyone like me," she replies in a whisper, her voice sounding confident and playful. "You better get used to it. We have a long road ahead of us together." They move to the beat, enjoying every moment. He holds her close to him, and she accepts him with an open heart, allowing herself to be lost in this moment. Their bodies move in harmony, and the feeling of intimacy fills every fiber of her being. His hands find her shoulders, and he gently touches her skin with his lips. Her heart glows with the feeling of love and joy. They continue to enjoy this moment, overwhelmed by passion and love for each other, feeling the harmony of their bodies and souls. Their dance continues for an incomprehensible amount of time, sometimes accelerating and gaining speed, sometimes slowing down and intensifying. Again and again Keith takes her, wrapping his strong arms and hands around her. Moving to the side, she feels the desire to take control. Without a word, she lets him know that he must lie on his back. She carefully settles herself on top, feeling a surge of satisfaction. Sitting up straight, she catches her eye in the large mirror on the wall. His hands support her proud shoulders, and she watches herself, moving in a calm rhythm that resembles the waves of the ocean. Her hips softly touch his, creating the impression of complete unity. The contrast of their skin looks enchanting. With her palms on his shoulders, she continues her smooth movements. Leaning closer, her bright red hair falls forward, creating an atmosphere of comfort and intimacy around them both. Softly, almost like a feather, her lips touch his. Pulling away and approaching again, she barely touches his lips, creating a feeling of tenderness and romance. They continue to move in their dance, supporting each other and enjoying every moment. She feels the growing tension and strength of their connection, sees his gaze, full of love and desire, and this awakens deep feelings in her. Their hands intertwine, creating a feeling of complete unity as their movements gradually fall into a slower rhythm. With every minute, their efforts become softer and calmer. Relaxing her muscles, she keeps his hands in hers. Smoothly lowering herself onto his chest, she finds a comfortable position and snuggles closer. Their noses lightly touch, and he kisses her tenderly. She inhales his scent, and her cheek rests on his collarbone. She hears and feels his breathing, his heartbeat, gradually slowing down after all the emotions she has experienced. "Oh, Angie, I never knew. I just didn't know it could be like this," he whispers in his lilting Irish accent. Closing her eyes and breathing slowly and deeply, as if in a state of blissful exhaustion, she answers, "Yes, yes, me too. I never thought that it could be so beautiful." Feeling how Keith's breathing becomes deep and measured in his sleep, she herself begins to move away from the shores of consciousness. Dedicated to my wife, the only love of my life. I cannot describe how lucky I am to be able to openly and honestly share my deepest desires with you. I cannot express how grateful I am that you accept me for who I am and allow me to write my fantasies. No woman has ever made me as happy as you do when you make my dreams come true, even in the smallest ways. Our relationship is so special and so strong. I don't know how we found each other, but I'm infinitely glad that it happened. With love, your husband. "Hey doll, are you having a good time?" asks Aaron. Oh, oh yes, I'm having a great time. Do you want to guess where I am now?" Angie answers flirtatiously. "Well, considering it's 9:30 am and you're on a cruise where you don't have to worry about kids, I'd assume you're in bed, right?" "Yes, but in whose bed?" she says with slight concern. "Oh my God, you're in bed with Keith right now. Right now. Oh, this is amazing," he exclaims enthusiastically into the phone. "Well, now I'm in the bathroom, and Keith is still sleeping. I never returned to my cabin last night." She draws slowly. "Aaron, I'm a little scared." Her voice becomes quieter. "You just, I, how can you still love me? Shouldn't you be angry or jealous or both? I know we've already discussed that I might get together with Keith, but it's still, I don't even know how to describe it. It turned out to be much more real than I imagined. Oh, darling, I love you. I love you more and more every day. I love you even more because you love Keith. I love you more because I can share you with him. I know. I know that you love me and love to share with me. But sometimes it still scares me," she admits. "Is it because of the intensity? Because of the strength of your feelings for Keith? Does this scare you?" Aaron asks softly. "Yes, They are very strong, very strong. Her voice betrays mixed emotions. Oh, Angie, do you think I didn't know how much you cared about Keith? You were madly in love with Keith long before you met him. Do you really think I could watch Keith occupy your thoughts and dreams for years and not know it? I knew how deep your feelings were even before you met. I can only imagine what it would be like to meet him, get to know him, and build a real relationship. And all this is amazing, amazing and incredible for you, for us, he says soothingly. Yes, yes, I know. It's just, I'm trying to imagine what it's like for you, but I can't. I just don't understand, you know. I understand, Angie. I don't always fully understand it myself. I just feel it. I know how I feel. I know how my desire for you grows when I share you, and I'm not just talking about sexual desire, and I know how you feel. I know you're crazy about Keith, and that's probably completely overwhelming for you, right? He asks. Yes, definitely, yes. I just didn't think it would be like this. I didn't know it would be so powerful, she admits. But that's exactly what's amazing about you. That you have such a huge capacity to love. That you can love more than one person. And I know you must have an incredible love for Keith. A love completely different from the one you have for me. But at the same time, you love me no less than before, right? I know that you are still my wife, and for that matter, you even love me more. This is the amazing part that I can't understand when I try to imagine it from your side. I don't understand how you can do this. Thank you. I love you. I guess I just needed to hear your reassurance, she whispers. I love you too, and I can't wait for the video from last night. You know what else? I'm also waiting for you to finally tell me that you're in love with Keith. I know it sounds weird, but the thought of hearing you say, this is driving me crazy, he admits. I'm still, just, I know you want to hear it, but I can't say it, even if it's probably true, pausing to catch my breath. Oh, and, there seems to be no video since last night. We ended up in Keith's cabin, and it would have killed the mood if I had gone to get my camera. I'm sorry, dear, I'm so sorry. I know how much you've been waiting for this. Oh God, you're killing me. You understand that I will have to force you to tell me every detail, small and large, many times. God, I'm so horny that I think I'll explode if I take a deep breath. Come on, tell me, he pleads enthusiastically. Nuo, she replies playfully. You'll have to wait. I'm on vacation, remember? I go back to bed with Keith. You can only imagine what happened last night, and can you imagine me hugging Keith this morning? About, oh, this is so unfair. I can't believe you would do this, with playful indignation in his voice. Mitchum, I'll curl up next to Keith, she says with an almost visible wink through the phone. Come on, seriously, please. You have to tell me, he begs. No, sorry, I love you, have fun with the guys, she answers. Ugh, I don't believe it. Okay, I love you too. Bye, he says with concession. Bye. Her phone immediately starts buzzing. A message from Aaron appears on the screen. But I want details very soon. With an almost audible chuckle, she types back, later, love you. A moment later, the phone vibrates again with a response from Aaron. Love you too. Now go hug. Tiptoeing back into the cabin and trying not to make the sound of clicking joints, she carefully slid under the blanket. Keith reacted instinctively to the movement of the bed, turning towards her and casually wrapping his arm around her. She closed her eyes with a slight smile of satisfaction. He doesn't tell me anything. He just keeps saying that it's a surprise, and I'll need a small bag for the night when we land in the Bahamas this afternoon, she told Katie with a hint of dissatisfaction with herself. I never learned to like surprises, she thought. With feigned offense, Katie replied, So, as soon as we get to the port, you'll leave me, right? Oh, I hate to do this to you, but I can't pass up the chance to spend time with Keith. And in general, I know you can easily find company. Yeah, I'm sure I'll find something to do. Or with whom, she answered with a sly smile. But call me, I definitely need to find out what the surprise is. Trying to zip up her overstuffed and oversized suitcase, Angie said, Of course, wish me luck. Keith, taking her suitcase, deftly extended his hand and led her along the pier. The sounds of the crowd from the ship, gathered around the tacky tourist shops, gradually faded as they headed towards the marina. Peering at him from under her floppy, wide-brimmed hat, Angie asked again. "Okay, so what's the big surprise?" His soft Irish accent sounded soothing. "We're almost there, you'll soon find out." He led her to a sparkling snow-white motorboat. Jumping inside, he quickly put away the guitar and motioned for his suitcase. After stowing her luggage, he extended his hand to help her board. "So you rented a boat?" she asked with a puzzled look, stepping onto the dazzling white yacht. Leaning down to peck her on the cheek, Keith replied, "No. More precisely, I rented an island, and the boat is just transport to get there." Releasing the mooring lines, he turned on the engine with the flick of a switch. Angie, holding her hat, watched them leave the harbor. Reducing the engine speed to idle, the boat gently approached a small wooden dock. Lightly hitting the pilings, Keith quickly climbed onto the dock and tied the boat. Carefully climbing the stairs, Angie froze for a moment, looking around the island. "You rented an entire island?" she asked in surprise, looking around the beautiful white house with a swimming pool. "That's right. Just for the two of us." "That's right," he replied, wheeling her suitcase towards the house. "Are you just going to stand there or what?" I'm coming," she hurried after him. As she rolled her suitcase into the bedroom, she felt a tickle in her stomach when she noticed that there was only one bedroom in the house. As she struggled to throw the bulky suitcase onto the bed, she felt Keith approach from behind. Hugging her waist, he pulled her firm curves toward his hips. His warm breath brushed against her ear as he gently touched her neck, stealthily squeezing her breasts. "How about surfing? The waves are not too big, but they are enough to get on the board," he suggested. Running her fingers through his hair, she replied, "Oh, well, I'm not much of a surfer. I mean, I kind of tried, but I never really surfed, you know?" "You've lived in Florida your whole life and never surfed?" he asked, raising his eyebrows in surprise. "Yes, it sounds strange, but I really don't know how. Believe me, I will be satisfied just watching you." Pulling away from her, he said, "Great, then I'll teach you. Put on your swimsuit, and I'll go find a surfboard," and walked out the door. There was a small knot of fear in her stomach. A swimsuit in the open sun for the first time in front of Keith? Damn, there's nowhere to hide. In a dark cabin after a couple of cocktails is one thing, but in daylight, I'm sure he will look amazing. It's crazy how delicious he is. But what will he think when he sees me? Will he still find me attractive? And this surfing, it's always difficult for me to learn something new. Anxious thoughts began to rush through her head like a whirlwind. Angie carefully steps onto the pool deck, wearing a hat and sunglasses, holding a bottle of SPF 100 sunscreen and a large beach towel wrapped demurely around her body, covering her from chest to knees. "I found where the water toys are kept here, and there is only one surfboard. Looks like we'll have to share it," Keith says. Angie grins. "It's okay. I guess I'm not going to surf much anyway." Protected by her glasses, her eyes enjoy the sight of Keith. She hungrily soaks up every touch as he stands in front of her shirtless, wearing red and white patterned shorts. He's even more stunning in real life than in the photographs. Even more. Impressive. I know how big he is. I'm still a little sore from riding it the last 2 nights, but I still never cease to be amazed at its size. With a wink, Keith takes her hand. "Come on," he encourages, intertwining his fingers with hers. Leading her along the pool deck, he leads her to a small sandy beach. Sticking the board into the sand, he begins to explain. "It's very simple. You need to row to where the waves are just starting to rise. You turn the board towards the shore and sit on it while you wait for a suitable wave. I can't exactly describe what a good wave is, but over time you start to feel it. When you see that a good wave is coming, you need to shift your weight forward a little, stand on your feet, and take a squatting position. All this must be done before the wave reaches you. If you do everything right, the wave will just catch you. Then you can stand up, but keep your knees bent and look at the horizon. If you look at your feet, you will fall." He pats the board. "This is a banana-type board. It's huge, but that's good because these ones are easier to master. It's easier to learn on this board. Most people don't use them these days because you can't make turns or maneuvers on them, you just drive straight. That's all. Ready to try? I'll swim with you and help you get ready. I signal when I see a good wave. I'll try to hold the board while you get up, but I can't promise I can be of much help. Keith looks at her with a smile. I don't know, Angie says hesitantly, still holding the lotion and feeling growing confusion. Come on, it will be cool, I promise. There is nothing better than getting on the board for the first time. It's unforgettable. Keith, I'll probably just watch, She begins to mumble. Oh, no, 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 he interrupts, suddenly realizing that she's nervous. I'll be with you all the time, don't worry. Everything will be fine, really. You can leave your towel here. Trust me, it's safe. We have the whole island to ourselves. She looks at him pleadingly. Her hands seem to be chained. Wait, are you afraid to take off the towel? Are you embarrassed about how you look in a swimsuit? Is this the point? He asks, even softer. She nods quietly. It's just. Angie begins to explain, but Keith interrupts her with a kiss. His tongue touches her gently as he deftly removes the towel from her body. Hugging her for a moment, he says seriously, I'm really interested in you, you know that, right? You are incredibly attractive and interesting. You've already captured my attention, and I don't care what you look like in a swimsuit. I didn't rent this island to host a fashion show. I brought you here because you are not like the other women I meet all the time. These girls who throw themselves at me. There is something different about you. Taking a step back to look at her, he whistles in admiration. Why are you so worried? Wow, you look amazing. Her eyes begin to water slightly as relief gradually washes over her. Perhaps only Erin knew how much time she had spent over the past months trying on dozens of swimsuits before finally settling on the green and white set she was currently wearing. It was not a classic bikini. The bottom looked more like mini shorts, revealing only a hint of her delicious buttocks. The top was closer to a sports top. Her ample breasts usually didn't look good in standard swimsuits. This one emphasized her assets and fit well. Thank you. I know you're just saying that, but thank you for your support, she says gratefully. No, I'm not making anything up. You look hot, he replies, and the bulging bulge in his shorts seems to agree. Look, we don't have to surf. I think we'll find something else to do. Feeling relieved and confident, she replies. No, I'm ready. Come on, show me how it's done. Only, are there really no living creatures in the water? Living animals, he laughs. No, everything is fine. The water is absolutely safe. Nodding, trying to convince herself, she says, Okay, let's try it. With an effort of will, Angie paddles her board towards the water, and Keith swims alongside, leading the way. Raising his hand from the water, Keith says, This is where you need to catch the wave. See how the waves suddenly get higher right before they reach us. This is what you need. Let's turn the board towards the shore and get ready to catch a wave. Together, they turn the board so that it faces the shore. After several waves pass by, Keith notices the next one and shouts, Okay, this one will do. Let's go. Angie begins to rise to her feet on the unfamiliar surface. After a couple of failed attempts, she manages to stand up and looks at Keith, who smiles at her. It was a good try. First time, you know. But you need to get on the board faster. This wave is long gone. You'll definitely succeed next time, I'm sure. He laughs encouragingly. With a fair amount of disappointment, Angie prepares for her ninth attempt to catch a wave. Previous attempts failed for various reasons. Either she was too slow or she did not distribute the weight correctly. One time she simply fell off the board. I have to admit, when Keith pulls me out of the water, it's not that bad. He can save me every day. Looking back, she begins to make sense of the waves and guesses when Keith says, Okay, come on. As she springs to her feet, she feels everything fall into place. Her feet are aligned, her weight is distributed in front, and the board suddenly shoots forward. Over the sound of the waves, she barely hears Keith shouting, Get up, and instantly finds himself in the water. As she surfaces, she sees Keith energetically swimming towards her. "Hey, are you okay?" he asks with concern. "Yes, yes, everything is fine." "I didn't even understand what happened," she replies. "You looked down. You looked at your feet. You did everything right except this. You need to look at the horizon." "Oh yes, I forgot about that. It's so difficult. But I caught the wave, didn't I? It was amazing when the board started moving," she says enthusiastically. "Yes, it's exciting. Nothing beats that feeling of catching a wave. Wait until you can get up and ride it all the way to the shore. Let me get the board." Taking her stance again, Angie looks back at the approaching waves. Squinting from the sun, she carefully examines each of them, trying to choose the right one. Suddenly, something grabs her from behind. Screaming, she tries to swim away from the attacking creature when she sees Keith raise his hand. "Sorry, Angie, I couldn't resist. Besides, you have such a nice butt that I can't keep my hands to myself," he laughs. "I'll repay you for this," she replies, splashing water on him. "Okay, help me catch the wave already." "Okay, take the next one," he shouts. Tensing her muscles, she easily moves into a squatting position and again feels the board rush forward. Trying to keep her balance, she looks at the house on the island and quickly stands up. "I'm doing it," she thinks. "Oh my God, this is incredible. I can't believe I did it." The wave continues to carry her towards the shore. The board finally stops a few meters from the beach, leaving her knee-deep in water. "I did it, I did it," she screams, jumping up and down with joy. It was so cool. The whale, having ridden the body behind the next wave, runs up to her on the shore. They clap their hands at each other. It was great, wasn't it? She jumps into his arms. He picks her up and, wrapping her legs around his hips, she hugs him tightly and spontaneously kisses him. It was the best. "I've never done this before. Thank you for your patience," she admits. "Believe me, it's a pleasure," he replies. "Are you ready to try again?" "I would like to, but it was tiring. I think I'll end on a positive note. Besides, the sun is not my friend. I'll go look for some shade and just watch you surf," she says, descending to the ground. "Come on, show what you can do, big guy." And with these words, she quickly touches his groin. With a wink, she turns around and heads for her beach towel. Opening a huge umbrella, Angie settles down on a large sun lounger on the beach. Sipping a cold cola she found in the kitchen, she watches Keith in the water. With practiced ease, he catches one wave after another. On a long, old-style board, he can only glide smoothly towards the shore. She plugs in her headphones and plays Keith's favorite songs on her iPod. "I can't believe this is true. It's too incredible. I've dreamed about it so often that I can't even believe it's actually happening." Coming out of the water, Keith heads towards Angie under an umbrella. "The water is a little warmer than I'm used to." "Yes, I can imagine. It must be nice to go into the water without a wetsuit, right?" "Oh, how wonderful it is outside," he says. "By the way, let's get cleaned up and think about dinner." Leaving her surfboard by the palm tree, he takes her hand and leads her to the pool. "They say there's an amazing outdoor shower here. Have you checked it yet?" he asks. Shaking her head, she follows him along the edge of the pool and around the corner of the house. "Wow, this is a real outdoor shower," she exclaims, looking at the glass and concrete platform. She had a stunning view of the ocean and could see a cruise ship in the distance. Turning the valve, Keith turned on a continuous flat stream of water falling from above like a waterfall. The warm water was absolutely amazing. Untying his surf shorts, Keith quickly stripped himself of his clothes. "Come on," he tells her. "They don't wash their clothes in the shower." A wave of fear washed over her again, and she shook her head in denial. "Come on, it's okay. We are alone here. There is no one else," he reassures her. "Kate, you don't understand. I have 3 children, and—" "No," he interrupts firmly, not allowing her to finish. "I understand. I think you're wrong. Do you know what beauty is? Beauty is not a woman who was simply lucky to be born. Real beauty is not fake blonde hair and fake breasts. Do you want to know what real beauty is? True beauty is a woman who loves herself enough to devote attention to herself, who works on herself for hours, days, even years to become the best version of herself. Gently lifting her hands, he continues, true beauty is a woman who loves freely, embraces life, and even has a few scars to prove it. The story of a real woman can be read on her skin. Running his fingers under her bikini top, he deftly removes it from her. Leaning down to kiss her lightly, he whispers, your beauty is not ordinary, not typical, not ordinary. Your beauty is unique. You embody femininity in its truest essence. You stand out and are different from other women, and I just can't get enough of you. His hands slide down behind her hips, easily removing the bottom of her swimsuit. Trust me when I say you are beautiful. Trust me when I say you are irresistible. Stepping away from her, he looks at her. Angie was left standing there, completely naked, with her imperfections exposed in the Caribbean sun. Like a condemned woman, she stood trembling slightly in front of the man she desperately loved, expecting him to reject her. Expecting Kate to turn away from her, she could hardly hold back her tears, and her lips trembled violently. Stretching out his hands to her, he says, go. I choose you. I see only a woman of incredible beauty, the woman I want with all my heart. Not knowing how she ended up there, as if she had fallen forward, she ended up in his arms. Burying her face in his chest, she could not hold back her tears. Strong sobs, cleansing tears of joy and relief overwhelmed her. She pressed herself tightly to him, giving vent to her emotions. Pressing her face against his skin, she began to speak, unable to stop the flow of words. Kate, I love you. I love you so much. I've loved you for so long. I wanted you and thought about you day and night. I dreamed of the day when I could just talk to you for a few hours. And to have this, to be desired by you, is more than I could have imagined. For so long, I only imagined what you could be like and touched your cheek in my thoughts. I can't even believe that you are here now with me. I just can't believe that this could be true. Hearing from you that I am beautiful is more than I could ask for. SHHH, Kate says quietly, stroking her hair. SHHH, of course I want you. Any man would be a fool if he didn't. SHHH, besides, I'm just a regular guy, he adds, swaying slightly from side to side, pressing his cheek to her forehead. When her tears subsided, she stood in his arms for a long time, enjoying the peace that comes after a storm of emotions. She silently took in her surroundings, the warm waterfall, the beating of his heart, the light ocean breeze, the scent of his skin. Reluctantly and slowly, she released herself from his embrace. Placing her hands on his cheeks, she looked into his eyes. Holding his gaze for a moment, she pulled him closer, pressing their lips together in a deep kiss. It was a kiss of surrender and acceptance, a kiss of understanding, a seal of emotional connection. Without saying a word, almost ceremoniously, she began to lather his chest. She worked methodically and slowly, washing him and caring for his body. This cleansing became a symbol of submission to one's own desires, a sign of acceptance of one's feelings. She washed the salt and sand from his skin, as if getting rid of the taint of denial of her own emotions. Bearing her feelings, she confessed her love for Keith without shame or guilt. She stood motionless, naked, allowing him to gently lather her skin. His touch was gentle, like a blind man's greeting, and it was both intimate and welcome. Reluctantly, like a cat taken from a warm windowsill, he turned off the water, which was already turning cold. Let's go, he said softly. Let's see what's in the kitchen. We probably need to eat. Wearing soft, well-fitting cotton shorts and a tight t-shirt, Angie rummages through the refrigerator. Well, the kitchen, of course, is not very richly stocked, but we certainly won't die of hunger. How do you feel about grilled cheese and tomato soup? I will eat anything that I don't have to cook. So sounds great, he answers. Oh, please, it's just a cheese sandwich. Nothing special. And the soup is just a can of canned food, she responded to his enthusiastic compliments. No, really, I mean it's delicious. Really delicious. I will say this is the best cheese sandwich I've eaten all day, he said, swallowing another bite. In just a day, right? Best of the day? She grinned, leaning on him, sitting together on the small sofa. Yes, maybe even the best of the week. In a year? Okay, best cheese sandwich of all time. In fact, this is the king of cheese sandwiches. I'm eating royalty right now in my hands. Well, she said conspiratorially, the secret is to use 2 slices of cheese. One is not enough, he simply cannot cope. Wow, are you sure you can trust me with such an important secret? It's a big responsibility, Keith said with a wink. Well, I already trusted you with my heart, so I think the king of cheese sandwiches will be safe, she said with a nervous laugh. So tell me more about yourself. Tell me about Keith off the stage. What's your family like? What were you like as a child? How did you become a singer? Angie snuggled into his arms. Sitting like this, they talked calmly, discussing various aspects of their lives. Their conversation flowed smoothly, like a winding river, each new fact becoming the beginning of the next topic. Keith's caring and charming personality was evident in all of his stories, and his soft Irish accent made each story like a healing balm. Can I take off the bandage already? He asked, lying on a sun lounger on the beach. Almost, she replied, trying to play the right track on her iPod. Finally finding the album and song she wanted, she pressed play. The first notes of exotic music, clearly of Middle Eastern origin, began to sound over the light sound of the waves. Keith turned towards the sound. What are you doing? After quickly checking the fit of her belly dance costume, Angie nervously took the opening pose. Okay, now you can take it off, but just promise not to laugh, okay? She said. No, of course, he said, removing the blindfold. Wow, he said quietly with admiration. Her heart was pounding, and Angie thought, I can't believe I'm doing this. I've never danced like that even for my husband. I hope he doesn't think it's stupid. Moving a little stiffly at first, her nerves and sand made it difficult to feel confident. But having collected herself, she continued. Gradually, as the music developed, its movements became more natural and smooth. Plucking up her courage, she looked at Keith and was relieved to see him sitting up straight and smiling like a child at Christmas. Gaining confidence, she gracefully performed vertical circles with her hips and undulating movements with her arms. Coming closer, she playfully shook her breasts in his face. He tried to touch, but she pushed his hand away with a smile and stepped back. Moving closer again, she swayed her hips, smiling at his admiring gaze. With the music still playing in the background, she dropped the veil over his head like a fishing net and slowly removed it, circling around him. His hand gently touched her thigh every time she turned. At the end of the second set, beads of sweat appeared on her forehead from tension. As the song ended, she gently pressed his back against the lounge chair. Climbing astride him, she threw the veil over their heads, enveloping them in their own little world. Well, was it normal? Or is belly dancing too weird for you? She whispered, touching his cheek with her lips with every word. It was the most incredibly erotic dance I have ever seen, he replied. The more I get to know you, the more you fascinate me. No one has ever danced or performed for me. Everyone always expects me to entertain them, to sing for them. No one but you put yourself on stage for me. You know a lot more about me, he continued. But even though we've only spent a few days together, I can't help but feel like I'm falling in love with you. Is this crazy? He asked hopefully. I don't know if this is crazy or not, and I don't want to find out, she answered quickly. I can only say that I know. I can only say how you captured my heart, how amazing you are. Her lips found his in a passionate kiss. Angie and Keith were together as one. She gently stroked his hair, and he smiled at her with special warmth. Both of them were overcome with emotion, and Angie turned on her favorite song on her iPod to fill the atmosphere with the sounds that meant so much to them. Keith looked at her lovingly, and his gaze spoke more than any words. Angie sat on the bed next to him. She could feel their hearts beating in unison. Keith gently pulled her closer and whispered, I can't get you out of my head. I love you, Angie. She smiled, her eyes sparkling. And I love you, Keith, she replied, clinging to him. They enjoyed this moment of intimacy and love, understanding each other without words. Everything around seemed to disappear, only the two of them remained, filled with light and tenderness. She waits, relaxes, and breathes deeply, not wanting to rush. Enjoying the moment, she admires the beautiful beach island, feeling the joy of being with Kit. His arms carefully hug her, and she feels the warmth of his touch. She is happy that their feelings are becoming stronger and blossoming. She thinks to herself, I am so lucky to have such a loving, supportive, and understanding husband. Leaning forward, she gently stretches, feels the support of his arms and relaxes again, plunging into warmth and comfort. Keith gently holds her, and they feel like one. She basks in his arms, her red hair falling over his shoulders as if framing their moments of tenderness. Keith gently leads her by the hand, helping her get comfortable on the lounge chair. She hugs him, feeling the touch of his lips and the support of his presence. He leans closer, and their eyes meet. She feels the waves create a calm, peaceful atmosphere around her, and the setting sun floods them with light. Keith presses against her softly, and she feels their hearts beating in unison. He kisses her carefully, and this gives her a feeling of harmony and unity. Her arms hug him tightly, and their movements are filled with tenderness and care for each other. They get lost in this moment, as if the world around them ceases to exist. She feels a wave of happiness wash over her as they cuddle together, sharing this special moment. In his skillful hands, she finds support and peace, feeling that their love is becoming stronger. Keith looks into her eyes, and she knows they are made for each other. Sweating from exertion, he slows down and finally rests, letting out a satisfied chuckle between breaths. Wow, she stutters. Yes, wow, he answers. Holding his breath, he leans in to kiss her lightly, and we still have all night. In the morning, taking a few minutes to drink coffee by the pool before leaving the island, she calls Erin. Hello, honey, how are you? It's okay, the boys got me up early, but you know they'll never let me sleep. You won't believe it, but yesterday Keith rented an entire island with a house and a pool just for the two of us, she shares. What are you talking about? Oh, you need to hear this. I hope they had their own reindeer games, right? He asks. Oh yes, they definitely were. We even decided to play up to 2 wins. This is simply incredible. You can't even imagine how much I love you now, how lucky I am, Angie, he admits. Looks like Keith is really in love with you, huh? Yes, yes, he's definitely in love, she answers. You know what? I love you, Erin. I know, I know you love me, and I love you. And you know what else? She asks with a slight pause. I love Keith. I'm madly, passionately in love with Keith, too. I don't know what I did to deserve you, Angie, he whispers. I couldn't be so happy with someone else. I couldn't be so in love with another woman. Hello, dear. Erin's voice comes through her phone. Hi, you too, Angie replies. You know, I had a crazy dream. I saw you finally being able to admit that you loved Keith. You told me about how you and he were madly in love with each other. Well, yes, she laughs. Your dream, right? I think that was our morning call. And yes, for your pleasure, I really am in love with Keith, she says, stuttering slightly at first. I am deeply and painfully in love with Keith. I know it was hard for me to talk about it all these years because all I could say was that I was in love with who I thought he was. But to get to know him, to see that he is not who I thought he was, but much more than I could have imagined. Talk to him, touch him. Damn, you have no idea how much pleasure it is to hold him all night, to look into his eyes while we make love. To hear him say the most incredible things, to hear him say, I love you, Angie, is overwhelming. I'm shaking when I think about it. I still can't believe that he wants me, that he can love me, that this is possible with me. I can't believe he chooses me. I knew what love was, and of course I still love you, Erin. But I have never felt such love. I have never been so in love. Her voice trembles slightly with emotion. I've never loved anyone like that before, she finished quietly. Wow, just wow, he answers slowly. This is amazing. You know how much I long to hear that you loved someone else. I don't know why I need this. I just know that I was born for this. I just can't. I mean, words just. I can't describe how I feel except that I feel so complete right now. Seeing you want someone else, like you want Keith even more than you want me, is just an incredible rush. It makes me feel incredibly fulfilled, and at the same time it creates a wild, exciting excitement. It makes my heart beat faster, and I want you even more. Collecting her thoughts, she replies, "You know, I don't understand you at all. I don't fully understand your need to share my heart with someone else. But I'm so grateful. I'm just incredibly happy. To think that I could have two great loves in my life, something that many people never get to experience. Are you sure you're not angry? It still seems strange to be so open. I've never wanted anyone the way I want Keith. I have never felt such love before. Damn, I'm not mad, not even close. I love hearing you talk about it." Gathering his courage, he asks, "Do you love Keith more than me?" "I think so," she answers quietly. "I mean, I love you, but Kate, he just captivates me like no other. I've never been so in love. The way he looks at me, the way he kisses me so passionately, and you know how much I love kissing, even if you don't like it so much. And the sex. Well, you're good, but Kate is amazing. Well, you know, it's partly a matter of size. It just fills me up and reaches places you've never reached. He's much bigger than you. And besides the fact that Keith is huge, between you and me there has never been the same passion and intensity that Keith and I have. I can't even describe how incredible this is. Wow, this is more than I could have ever hoped for. I've wanted this for so long. It seems to me that I should be completely conquered by your love and desire for Keith. I've never loved you as much as I do now, Angie," he says, a little out of breath. "Oh, honey, I love you too. I am so lucky to be married to a man who gives me such wonderful children and allows me to have a relationship with the love of my life." "You are the best," she replies. "Oh, I'm sure you'll like the videos. But you know, it became a real relationship with Keith and not just a fleeting fling. So I can't record us every time we make love, and this cruise is my time with Keith. I want to spend every possible minute with him while I can, and these phone calls are taking up too much of my time, you know." Okay, I think I understand," he replies in a mock offended voice. "Go jump into bed with Keith again then." "Oh, I will," she replies with a smile, "and that won't be all I do. I want you to teach me how to play. I want lessons," she says, pushing away her salad plate. "I think I've already given you a few lessons," Keith replies with a small smile and a hint of a wink. "That's for sure, though I think I've taught you something." She adds by gently biting her lower lip, "Teach me to play the guitar. I've always wanted to learn." "Okay, I'll be happy to show you. But it's hot now, let's jump in the pool, drink Magners, and then come to my cabin and I'll introduce you to my other girl." "Another girl?" she asks, raising an eyebrow. "That other girl better be your guitar," she says, lightly hitting him on the shoulder. "This is true, and if you're good, I might even let you touch her." "Good, just good," she replies, standing up from the table with Keith. "I think I remember you moaning something about how I'm the best you've ever known last night. I may have said it yesterday, but after further thought, I think I need to do a little more research tonight," he says, smacking her bottom lightly. "Keep up the good work, big boy, and I'll definitely give you something to explore tonight." Gently lowering herself onto the edge of the bed, she pressed herself against his bare chest. Over her shoulder, he wrapped his arms around her, carefully holding the guitar. "Your springy hair tickles," he said, blowing his warm breath on her neck. Shaking her head, she deliberately pressed her tightly curled copper locks into his face. "Sorry about that," she teases. Nuzzling her neck, he said, "Don't be sorry. I love your hair. Keep it up, and you'll turn me on." "Then I'll stop, because you have to teach me how to play the guitar, remember?" she said out loud. Internally, feeling his rising arousal pressing against her lower back, she knew it was probably hopeless. It was impossible that they could be so close to each other and alone without being distracted by the pleasures they could give each other. He gently touched her neck with his lips as his hands carefully began to slide over her body. She felt her body react to his touch, and her inner warmth began to flare up more intensely. Carefully setting the guitar aside, she turned to approach him. He pulled her towards him, his lips finding her skin again, causing a wave of tender emotions in her. Her arms carefully wrapped around his neck, and she felt his closeness, which filled her with joy and peace. He hugged her gently, trying not to disturb the fragility of this moment, filled with warmth and mutual understanding. Everything that happened between them was natural and sincere, full of love and trust. He ran his hand through her hair, playing with the curls as if they were the thin strings of his guitar. They were immersed in a moment in which only the two of them mattered, without words, without haste, enjoying each other's closeness and warmth. Their hearts beat in rhythm, as if creating music that no one else could hear but themselves. Stopping, she looked at him carefully, smiling with slight tenderness. She touched him gently, trying to create comfort and understanding. Their closeness became more palpable, and she felt the connection between them growing. She continued to move with confidence, maintaining a calm rhythm, and they both felt their emotions intensify. He realized that the moment was close to its peak, and the two of them were aware of the depth of their intimacy. She carefully stepped back for a moment, allowing the growing sensation to subside a little, and then turned to him, a soft smile on her face. Her movements were graceful, and there was subtlety and tenderness in their actions. They continued to be close, enjoying this special moment of intimacy and togetherness. "I have a little surprise for you. Hope you like it," she said with a slight trembling in her voice. Angie, who is Axgie?" he asked, holding her waist and looking at the tattoo on her lower back. "About," she exclaimed, slightly embarrassed. "Oh, it's no one, honey. Nobody. Maybe we should do something about this," he suggested with a smile, pressing her closer to him. Yes, maybe, if you have any ideas," she said, handing him a small black top hat. Not immediately realizing it was a flashlight, Keith hesitated for a moment before turning it on. The flashlight emitted ultraviolet light that illuminated her back with a purple glow. Instantly, the heart on her lower back glowed bright red, and underneath it, the letters K and X appeared, glowing thanks to ultraviolet light. "What? This is incredible," he exclaimed, looking at her admiringly. "When did you get my initials on your back?" "I did this a long time ago," she answered falteringly, smiling. "I knew I loved you long before we met." He hugged her tighter, their gazes met, filled with tenderness and joy. The moment lasted an eternity in which it was just the two of them, surrounded by love and warmth. Walking through the streets of Kingston, Jamaica, he held her hand, their fingers intertwined. Covered under her straw hat, she couldn't help but sneak glances at him. His Hawaiian shirt was unbuttoned, and his yellow patterned shorts hugged his figure. She thought, "I still like looking at him. He's a really big guy." She felt a whirlwind of emotions. On the one hand, amazement that Keith, whom she had wanted for so long, was finally here with her. On the other hand, the amazing ease and naturalness with which she felt next to him. His soft voice with an Irish accent was able to calm and create a feeling of security. They instantly hit it off. She really knew him. Beneath his public persona, she saw who he really was. The photos in the window of the Inclined Island tattoo parlor caught her attention. Slowing down, she stopped to look, and Keith looked out the window with her. "I love tattoos. I love wearing art on my body. I can't help but appreciate the work of the masters," she said thoughtfully. "This master is clearly talented. The detail and shadow transitions are great. A good tattoo can be very attractive," he replied. "For example, the one on your left side. Do you like it? You understand what it means, right?" she asked, lifting the hem of her shirt to reveal a large tattoo on the lower left side of her ribs. "I think I can share a secret. This is my Katowski drawing, which I came up with myself. You see, the Celtic design symbolizes our shared Irish heritage. The notes represent your music, which I adore. The ladybug is your VW Beetle, and the waves are your love of surfing." She bit her lower lip slightly in embarrassment, waiting for his reaction. "What? Wow, how long ago did you do this?" "About 2 years ago," she answered quietly. "You created this whole design based on me and made it for yourself before we met." He was surprised. Well, a few years ago, we took a photo together, she admitted. This is incredible. I can't believe you've been waiting for me for so many years. It's like you loved me without even knowing, he whispered. Well, yes, that's probably true. I could never say this before, but yes, I think I loved you even before I knew you, she whispered in a hoarse voice, burying herself in his chest. Do you like it? Or does it scare you? Like? I love it. I love it just as much as I love you. My heart hurts that we didn't meet sooner. I feel like I was so left out, he said, running his fingers through her curly hair. She looked up, meeting his gaze. You did some of your art, right? She said, running her finger over his bare chest. Ever thought of turning this into a tattoo? Thought, and right now something is coming to mind, he replied. Do you trust me? Do I trust? Yes, completely. Okay, because I have an idea, he said, pulling her toward the door of the tattoo parlor. Oh, look, they also do tattoo removal, he added, pointing to the sign where smoke and reggae sounds were coming from the open door. Hello, she said. Hello, doll. Still having a good time? She heard his voice on the phone. Absolutely, although my lower back hurts a little. Yes? Learning a new position with Keith or something? Not really. Keith and I were walking around Kingston this afternoon and found this weird, eclectic tattoo shop. Tattoo artist Mo is a young black guy with a crazy afro straight out of 80s TV. Overall, his work is incredible. The detail and shadows in his drawings are amazing, and he only uses homemade tattoo machines made from Bic pens or something like that, she replied. Sounds interesting. If you know his name, it means you didn't just look through the windows. You got a new tattoo, right? He asked carefully. Maybe, she replied flirtatiously. But don't get ahead of yourself. You'll have to listen to the rest of the story. Sorry, I can't help myself. Don't stop, keep going, he blurted out. Okay, so here it is. Naturally, we started talking about tattoos, and I talked about the one on my left side and how it symbolizes a lot of the things I love about Keith, things that unite us. Then we started talking to Mo, and of course, he wanted to see all my tattoos. I even showed him the one that glows under ultraviolet light on my lower back. Mo was impressed with the quality of most of my tattoos, but noticed that Axe had become thicker and a little blurry over the years and suggested touching it up. Yeah, I noticed that too. So Keith dragged Mo along with him, and they began to discuss and draw something in the back room of the salon. And it started to irritate me a little, because Keith excluded me from the conversation and didn't let me in. A few minutes later, Keith came up to me and said, "Do you love me?" And I was like, "Yes, of course I love you, more than you can imagine." And he says, "I've never felt anything like this. I've never connected with someone so deeply or loved anyone as much as I love you. I want to add my touch, my art to your body. Do you trust me? Let me do it." Do. He has a gift for words, doesn't he? Asked Aaron. Yes, that's exactly it. But still, you know how much I hate surprises. I always knew. That's it. But he doesn't want to say what he's planning. He just keeps telling me I should trust him even though it's killing me. You're starting to kill me. What happened? Well, wait, I have to show you. Her voice trailed off as she searched for something on her phone. Okay, check your email. And please, please don't be mad at me. Her voice sounded pleading. Okay, give me a second. So, an email from Angie, with an attachment. Let's see what's in there. I recognize that pumpkin butt, but the tattoo on your lower back looks different. Wait, what happened to my initials? Is this a guitar and a microphone? He exclaimed. Yes, this is Keith's favorite cross-shaped guitar and microphone. Hope you like it. Like, aren't you angry? She jabbered. No, I'm not angry. I like it. Honestly, it looks really cool. I think it's great. Honestly, doesn't it bother you that your initials are now Keith's art? She asked somewhat hesitantly. I like it, and I love you. It makes me want you even more, he admitted. Phew, okay, I kind of knew you'd be okay with this, but I was still a little nervous. Yes, I love it. I love how the guitar and microphone look soft and curved. They fit harmoniously into the overall design, and the color transitions on them are simply perfect. Honestly, Keith has real talent as an artist. It looks much better. Now it finally looks like a full tattoo, you know? Well, Axt was so angular and boxy and didn't go with the heart and the rest of the tattoo at all. And now this resonates so well with the heart and curls. How did he do it? Well, Keith did the whole sketch, and Mo came up with the idea to handle the axe. Some parts of the old letters were removed with a laser, and some were mixed with new elements. All I know is Mo is a genius. It took 5 hours, and it hurt like hell, she said. 5 o'clock? It looks amazing, but it doesn't look like it should have taken that long. Well, she said slowly, there's something else there. See how the mic cable goes to the left and the guitar cable goes to the right? Yes. Okay, check your email again, she says. Clicks on the attachments from the new letter. Oh, the guitar cable forms a surf outline on your right thigh. Wow, this is really cool. I definitely like it. I guess the cable also forms something on the left side, right? He said, scrolling through the next file from the email. Yeah, on the left side, the microphone cable outlines the silhouette of a VW van. Wow, that's hot. Yes, I hope you like it because I definitely like it. It's so sexy. She exhales into the phone. This effect, where the color appears slightly on one end of the VW and then disappears into an outline on the other, looks so cool. The surf is made in the same style. It's incredible that Kate can be both a hot, amazing singer and be able to draw like that. And you know what? She said with a chuckle. Oh, baby, you turn me on so much, I don't know if I can stand it. Well, wait, that's not all. See how the microphone and guitar cables keep running around your hips? Okay, check your email again. Wow, he exclaimed after a long pause. Is it like wow good or wow bad? She asked doubtfully. Ooh, wow, he drew slowly. You're not angry? She asked quietly. No, not at all. Damn, this is incredible. You sure? I was so afraid that you wouldn't like it. Absolutely sure. I've never been so sure in my life, to be honest. This is amazing. The way the two cables meet left and right to form KRH. Is that Keith's handwriting? He asked. Yes, him. Are you sure you like it? I was just really afraid that it would be too much to remove your initials and replace them with Keith's 2 inches high in a very visible place. I mean, I love it, but I want to know that this is normal for you too. This is absolutely normal. I love it too, every detail. Yes, even though your initials have been replaced with Keith's, she clarified. Especially because of this, I can't believe you decided to do this, he answered enthusiastically. Well, you know, being blindfolded, almost naked, and having two men poking and poking for 5 hours is not my idea of fun. Is it true? Sounds pretty hot, actually, he said with mischief in his voice. I'm sure you'd love it, but it wasn't fun at all. I don't think I could go through that again for anyone, not even Keith. It hurts like hell. It's a pity that you had to suffer so much, but the result is worth it. This is simply fantastic. Well, maybe I would do it again for Keith, but it still hurts a lot, she admitted. By the way, there is a story connected with this tattoo. Keith said the VW symbolized our shared interests and life experiences before we met. It's like our past. The surfboard symbolizes the moment we met and became one. This is our present. And the microphone and guitar on my back are his passions. And by drawing them on me, he shows that I am also his passion. And he placed his initials where my skin was damaged because I was very embarrassed about it. He wanted to put his name there to claim that I was his, and to make sure I always remembered that I was perfect for him. And finally, if I follow any of the cables, the tattoo forms a vicious circle around me. This is so that when I hear him sing, I will always feel his passion surrounding me, wherever I am. He said he would always think of me when he sang and wanted me to know how much he loved me every time I heard his voice. She finished quietly. So yeah, that's the story. Wow, I don't even know what to say, he admitted. Keith has amazing style, doesn't he? Did he make this all up on the fly? Both the idea and the drawing? Well, yes, as far as I know. He couldn't plan it for long. Damn, he's good. No wonder you're crazy about him, he admitted. Yes, she said quietly. Yes, he is the most amazing person I have ever met. It was the best week of my life. Whether it sounds strange or not, it does for me too. Oh baby, I'm so lucky. I love you. Love being one of the guys in your life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think I'm lucky. I have two of the most amazing guys in the world. Thank you for letting me be myself, she whispered. It's mutual, he answered. Okay, I have to go. We'll talk tomorrow. Okay, send more photos. Have fun. Okay, I will. Love you. Love you too. Bye. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.